Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. And my guest today is a man who was born on a farm in Anatolia, who they say had his school teachers tearing their hair out and who had to battle against his family to realise his dream. But that is precisely what he has done, becoming a very special and very successful chef. And here he is, in person, Ali Güngörmüs.
Hi.
Ali, thank you very much for joining us here today on Talking Germany, coming all the way from Hamburg in the wind, the snow. It's cold winter here in Berlin. Yeah. Now, it was in the year 2006 that Ali Güngörmüs was first awarded a coveted star by the prestigious Michelin Guide for his Hamburg restaurant Le Canard Nouveau. And today he's here on Talking Germany to share with us his philosophy of life and his culinary philosophy. Ali, first question. Ali Güngörmüs, it's an interesting name, and I know that the meaning, the translation of your name is very interesting, so please tell us what it is.
Güngörmüs means someone who has experienced a lot in life, a wise person.
That's very interesting. Yeah? Wisdom, Weisheit, yeah? Where did you get the wisdom from? Are you a wise person?
I think I'm too young for that. I'd say that applies to someone who has experienced more in life. I am 36. And I'm on the right path, but I still have a way to go.
Okie dokie. A lot has been made of the fact that, that you are the only Turkish cook, the only Turkish chef in the world who has Turkish origins, who has won a Michelin star. You've won other prestigious awards. I'd like to ask you, sort of, how Turkish is your cuisine?
The food I cooked wasn't at all Turkish to begin with. I was born in Turkey and lived there until I was 10 years old, but I never did any cooking there. I did eat Turkish food at home, but when I started training, I learned to cook good, plain German food. Then when I had my own restaurant, I did start to include some Turkish influences in what I cook. I use a lot of spices, for example. The taste of the Orient combined with local produce from the area around Hamburg make for some very interesting combinations. I try to include that mix in my recipes, and the people in Hamburg really seem to like it. I would say my cuisine is becoming increasingly Turkish, or rather more Oriental and exotic. But it isn't pure Turkish food. I never really learned to cook Turkish dishes, so I couldn't say my cuisine has a lot of Turkish influences. But the spices that I use do have that origin.
Okay, I've explained already that you're very successful and you've worked very hard for that success and you work very hard now still. Tell me, what is a typical working day for you?
On a normal day, I get up early, drink coffee, and then I go to work. I spend the entire day there.
When you say you get up early, how early do you get up?
I get up between 7 and 7:30, but I'm always at work between 8 and 9. Sometimes I allow myself a late start and arrive at 9:30 because I have more chefs working for me. But we have to make an early start because we're usually well booked and we need time to prepare everything. We make 95% of the food ourselves, apart from the bread and a few other things. The restaurant is full in the evening, so you have to get up early the next day to go shopping. And then get started on preparing the midday meals for our guests.
And what time do you get to bed in the evening?
It varies. Normally between 11 and 2. On a normal evening, I get home at midnight, and I don't go straight to bed. But I often don't get to bed until 1. If I do go to bed by 12, I'm glad because I get an extra hour's sleep.
It's a long day, it's hard work. OK, first impressions there from Ali Güngörmüs. Here is more.
Every day, Ali Güngörmüs cooks up a storm in his Hamburg restaurant Le Canard Nouveau. His Mediterranean and Middle Eastern cuisine is a hit with guests and food critics alike. The young chef received his first Michelin star in 2006, and he's been awarded 16 out of 20 possible points by the Millaut Gourmet Guide. Here he's preparing salmon with bulgur wheat and zucchini. Ali Güngörmüs was born in eastern Turkey in 1976. When he was 10 years old, he moved to Munich with his mother and 6 siblings to be with his father, who worked there as a welder. Ali Güngörmüs enjoyed hip-hop dancing, dreamed of making it big as a rapper, played ping-pong and cooked. After leaving school, he trained as a chef in Bavaria. He quickly developed an interest in gourmet cuisine. He went on to work at the restaurants of star chefs such as Karl Ederer and Hans Haas. At age 27, he was appointed chef de cuisine at Munich's renowned Lenbach restaurant, where he catered for celebrities like Nicole Kidman and Mick Jagger.
Yes, he ordered bulgur wheat. Yes, really. I think it was with goat's cheese. I thought it was great that he noticed my name. It was great. And Nicole Kidman, for instance. All the celebrities. Although she hardly ate anything.
Güngörmüs still shops in Turkish food stores round the corner from his restaurant in Hamburg's Altona district. This is where he gets his best ideas for new dishes.
Recently, I made a black tea mousse for a dessert and served it with a raspberry praline. People loved it. You just have to get out and let yourself be inspired.
He finds hundreds of spices here and his beloved pomegranate vinegar. Güngörmüs also enjoys an occasional döner kebab, the dish that's become synonymous with Turkish fast food in Europe. But he's not always pleased with the quality.
I always say that one day when I have the time, money and energy, I'll open up a doner kebab shop. Then they'll all see how I would do it.
With Le Canard Nouveau, Ali Güngörmüs has achieved his dream of owning his own restaurant. It keeps him busy, but he often finds himself with little time left over for his family life. His modern restaurant enjoys renowned success in the North German port. And today, he's our guest on Talking Germany. A warm welcome, Ali Güngörmüs.
And Ali Güngörmüs, you were born in eastern Anatolia, in Tunceli province. What can you remember? What can you tell us about those very early days when you were a little guy?
My first memories, the herbs and our homegrown vegetables. We had a garden, and we also had a farm where we grew things for ourselves. We also had an orchard and so on. Those are my first memories of Turkey. When I was growing up, everything was so nice and easygoing and uncomplicated. That's something you don't have these days, and it's not something you can offer your children. But those are the first memories I have of living in Turkey.
It sounds nice. Your father went to work in Germany. Yeah? Can you remember that?
No, I don't know.
What did he tell you about Germany?
He didn't say much. He only came back to Turkey once or twice a year. We knew he was in Germany, but all we knew was that he worked there. We didn't know anything about the job he did, and it didn't really interest us, to be honest. He always brought us chocolate when he came home. It tasted really good, but I'd better not mention the brand. It was so tasty. We really looked forward to getting chocolate and having our father at home with us for 4 to 6 weeks. But we knew nothing about his job or how hard he had to work. But we always thought life must be better in Germany than at home.
Okay, and when you were 10 years old, you came to Germany. Yeah. What was it like for you?
Everything was new to us. I can only speak for myself, really. I don't know what it was like for my brothers and sisters. We were really happy to be together with our father and as a family once again. But we soon realized how different things were in Germany. To begin with, everything was so clean. Munich is a very clean place. The people looked different. They spoke a different language. I noticed that very quickly. Luckily, we had Turkish neighbors. Their son spoke good German. He showed us around a bit and explained things, and that was a great help. But I remembered that for the first week or so, we didn't leave the apartment because we were afraid of getting lost. My older sister had been to Germany a few years before that. She said, "Don't go out. You could easily get lost, and you don't speak the language." And that is why we simply stayed indoors. Then the boy next door took us out and showed us some youth centers. He played football with us, and that was great. I'm so glad he was there. Otherwise, life would have been really hellish for us.
And then you decided that you wanted to become a chef, yeah? How old were you, and how did your parents react?
I left school when I was 14, so I only had a leaving certificate. But back then, in 1991, you could make a go of things with just a leaving certificate. Of course, things are different these days. But back then, you could get a good training position and learn a decent career with a basic school-leaving certificate. Today, that's almost impossible. When I left school at 14, I had to do something. My parents were glad we didn't just hang around on the streets annoying people or getting up to mischief. It isn't easy being a parent when you have 7 children. The youngest one was born in Germany. We come from a humble background, and I think they are very happy that we all turned out okay and managed to make a go of things. I said I wanted to be a chef. I had other possibilities. In the printing trade, for example. But I didn't want that. My father said, "If you want to be a chef, then go for it." He didn't interfere with my plans. He was glad to see me go.
And you began your career, you began your training, and you made the first steps in your professional career in Bavaria. Yeah? That's interesting because the food in Bavaria is good, but people here in Germany say it's deftig. It's very traditional and it's very heavy. Yeah? What do you say? Yeah?
Bavarian food is very hearty. The Bavarians are very proud of their regional dishes. Funnily enough, back then the Aubergine, Germany's first top restaurant, was in Munich. Or was it the Tantris before that? Yes, I think the Tantris in 1975 and then the Aubergine. In any case, they were the first gourmet restaurants in Germany. Later, the good reputation of Bavarian cuisine spread to the rest of Germany and Europe. But it started in Munich. I learned to cook Bavarian food. Simple meat dishes, roast pork and fried fish. Simple things. Then later on, I heard there were more sophisticated things you could cook, and I kind of slipped into that.
And that is where you are now. Now, Germany currently enjoys a growing reputation for its excellent cuisine. France, you might find it hard to believe, is the only country in Europe that has more 3-star restaurants than Germany, according to the Michelin Guide. The other leading guides to good restaurant, being the Güngörmüs, agrees. And Germany is a great place to eat. But how do these very influential guides that I've just been mentioning, how do they actually work? Let's take a look.
The Güngörmüs publishing house in Munich can make or break a culinary career. Editor-in-chief Patricia Bröhm loves to write about food.
Good food fascinates me. There's always more to learn and to discover. Like an entire world of spices from Africa and Asia, which we haven't tapped into yet here.
Brüm took over the helm of the German Güngörmüs in April 2012. In recent months, she's been hard at work on the 2013 guide. The Güngörmüs guide awards toques instead of stars. 4 hats is the absolute crème de la crème. The hats are based on the number of points awarded on a scale of 1 to 20. The German edition never awards 20 points, saying that such perfection can't be achieved. In 1983, only 2 restaurants won 18 points or more. Today, 4 chefs in Germany have won 19.5 points.
The most important factor in our rating is the quality of the food, of course. We look for chefs who've developed their own signature style, instead of just chasing after the latest trends. Chefs who've got their own signature style, a cuisine d'auteur, as they say in French.
Das ist das, was man auf Französisch die cuisine d'auteur nennt.
The quality of the food and the chef's personal touch are also what count in the renowned Michelin guides. They've been awarding their coveted star since 1926 and here in Germany since 1964. That gave the profession of chef a real boost. Munich's Tantris restaurant boasts 2 Michelin stars. Hans Haas has presided here for 20 years now.
It used to be that people went into cooking when they couldn't do anything else. Then they'd at least be warm and have something to eat. But it's not like that today.
Güngörmüs awarded Tantris 18 points. The guide adheres to a precise set of criteria for its ratings. Apart from the hats, the Güngörmüs is known for its extensive descriptions and for its incisive criticism.
It's always a question of how you formulate things. You can be quite hard-hitting in your criticism, but it makes a difference whether you say something straight out or express it more subtly. There's quite a bit of leeway.
Patricia Brüm often goes to a Chinese restaurant around the corner for lunch. She's a well-known guest there, but her 25 reviewers are always anonymous. The publishing house always foots the bill. This year, the tab will come to about €300,000.
We try to be as discreet as possible. If they recognize our food critic and the chef lets on that they've noticed us, we send somebody else another time.
Dann müssen wir eben noch mal jemanden hinschicken.
Patricia Brüm, who likes to relax and enjoy good food, says taste is something that develops gradually.
Well, Germany has 255 1-, 2-, and 3-star Michelin restaurants. That's more than at any time in the past. It's a new record level. What's going on? Why is Germany suddenly so good?
We're continually developing ourselves here in Germany. We aren't satisfied with simple things. We want to get ahead. Guests know a lot more about food these days. They read up on it. And don't forget all the cookery shows we have on TV at the moment. People are becoming more and more interested in food and drink, and that's why we have chefs who want to develop their skills further. And then there are guests who are looking for something different. We have a lot of chefs who want to place their own signature on what they cook. That's why we have some very high-quality restaurants here in Germany at the moment. That report is correct. We have reached a very high standard here in Germany. And on a European level, I think we're even ahead of France. We've continued to develop our skills. We won't settle for simple things. If you eat out in a 3-star restaurant in Germany and then in France, you'll see that the price isn't the only difference. The bill would be a lot higher in France than it is in Germany. Here in Germany, new techniques have developed. French cuisine has remained the way it was. The Guide Michelin, of course, is a French gourmet guide. It isn't bad if the French are a step ahead of us, but we are close behind them, and I wouldn't be surprised if we managed to overtake them in a few years' time. We have lots of young chefs here in Germany who want to succeed in their careers and make a name for themselves. The older ones are making way for the younger generation. They watch what the others are doing and learn from one another. That situation will become a lot more common in the years to come. On the other hand, I'm sad to say that people do copy one another a lot here in Germany. As Frau Brum said in the report, you need to establish your own personal style and remain true to it. You won't get anywhere if you just copy other people.
Tell me this, for people like me outside the business, I always try to imagine what it's like for you. Do you know when people from the important guides, representatives from the important guides, are coming into your restaurant? Do you actually see them and say, they're here with us now, this evening? Yeah?
No. I would recognize some people, like Frau Brum, for example, and a few others perhaps, people in the public gaze here in Germany, and who are known as restaurant critics. But when someone from Guide Michelin comes, sometimes they say who they are after they have eaten, sometimes they don't. But that isn't important. The important thing is to keep up your standards. The food always has to be good, whether it's a food tester or not, or a journalist. Because the journalist might write about you, but the other guests are paying customers too.
Der Journalist wird vielleicht über Sie schreiben, aber der andere bringt genauso das Geld rein.
Your job is a little bit like the job of somebody who's doing absolutely top-level sport, because every day, every single day, you have to get it right. You have to be right on the button with your performance.
We always have to maintain top standards. It's essential. You must always do your best and give 100%. Sometimes you only achieve 70%. We're all human after all. But normally, you must give 100% or things won't work out. The guests come to your restaurant, they spend money, they want to have a nice experience, and we have to do the best we can to make that happen. The problem is we work with food. We have to cook meals every day, sometimes twice a day. We can't say we'll prepare 100,000 portions in advance, and if we don't sell them today, then tomorrow.
Es geht nicht anders. Es ist nicht so, dass wir sagen, okay, wir stellen jetzt 100.000 Gläser her, wenn wir heute nicht verkaufen, verkaufen wir morgen.
No, we only cook for that day, and the food you serve your guests has to be good.
Und dafür muss auch dahinter sein, dass die Gäste auch was Anständiges kriegen.
And when I say it's like sport, I would like to ask you, what is your goal? You already have one Michelin star that you got in 2006, and you've kept that star till now. Yeah? Are you aiming for 2 Michelin stars?
Nein. Ja, so,
be honest, Ali.
Ja, manchmal
Sometimes you get that certain feeling and say, yes, it's something to aim for. But it can be a long way to a second star.
Yeah, well, one question. What is the difference between 1 star and 2 stars? What do you have to do?
I think you're more disciplined in your approach. You introduce new products and work harder at what you do. But it takes up even more time. 12 hours a day aren't enough. You need to work 14 hours a day. And you also have to have enough money to pay for it all. I have to make sure that Le Canard remains profitable. But with a 2-star restaurant, that would no longer be the case. If you work well, and as long as you keep your feet on the ground, you and your family can live well from a 1-star restaurant.
Von einem Sterne-Restaurant, wenn Sie nicht abdrehen, wenn Sie normal bleiben, können Sie von einem Sterne-Restaurant gut leben.
But a 2- or 3-star restaurant doesn't make a profit.
Aber ab dem zweiten, dritten
In that category, you have to be grateful if you have enough guests, because the prices are always higher if you have 2 or 3 stars.
Automatisch, wenn Sie zweiten Stern haben oder dritten Stern haben, gehen Sie auch mit den Preisen.
Then you only get the crème de la crème eating there. And the result is a stifled atmosphere in the restaurant. That's not what I want. I want life in my restaurant. I want a certain atmosphere. I want to see young guests as well as the older guests who have more money, of course.
Ich möchte junge Gäste haben, ich möchte natürlich auch die alten Gäste haben, die Geld haben.
Here is a disturbing and remarkable figure. An estimated 7.5 million people here in Germany cannot read and cannot write. Now, many of those people, of course, feel stigmatised, and they do everything they can to hide their illiteracy. The best solution, and it's a tough option, is to go back to school.
Gerd Pranger from Berlin is back in the classroom. For the past year, he's been learning how to read and write. He decided to give it another try when his daughter started school.
I thought, if she can read, then I have to be able to read as well. If she asks me to read something to her, and I have to admit that I can't, it would be really embarrassing.
Dass ich das nicht so richtig kann. Rat mal, wofür ich eine 1 gekriegt habe, für mein Gedicht. Willst du es lesen?
Television campaigns such as this one aim to encourage adults who can't read to sign up for literacy classes.
Papa? Du kannst echt nicht lesen?
A study by the University of Hamburg has found that 7.5 million adults in Germany are functionally illiterate.
What we want to do is reach these people, to motivate them to learn, and we want to break down the taboos on the topic of illiteracy, just so that we can talk about it.
But only a tiny fraction of illiterates are currently attending courses. Also, teaching capacities are limited.
If everyone who was illiterate suddenly wanted to enroll in one of our classes, we wouldn't be able to accommodate them. We'd have to put them on a waiting list. There just isn't enough money.
Meanwhile, the problem has also become a political issue. Regional education budgets are stretched to the limits, and there isn't any funding for additional courses.
I think the federal government should see whether it can help the states out with funding, because we'd like to expand the number of courses on offer.
Ending illiteracy will take money, political will, and the work of many committed teachers. It will help people like Gerd Pranger, but society will also benefit.
I'm very proud of what I've learned this past year. And I'm also proud of my teacher. She's taught me a lot, and she's given me a lot of confidence and motivation. And I'm sticking with it.
Gerd Pranger says learning to read has changed his life. And now he's looking forward to reading to his daughter.
That's an interesting and rather moving report. There's one moment where a young girl is speaking to her father and she wants him to read something from school to her, and she realises he can't read it. He can't read, and he starts almost crying. Is that kind of scene familiar to you?
My mother could neither read nor write. She always wanted to go to school, but my grandfather wouldn't allow it. He said girls could not go to school, and that's the way things were in the Muslim world back then. But she always resented him for it. When he died some 4 or 5 years ago, she said she had always resented him for forbidding her to attend school. We'd always known that my mother couldn't read or write.
How old were you? When was the first time that you thought, my mother can't read, my mother can't write?
I must have been 8, maybe 9 or 10. I knew that if I asked my mother to read something out to me, she would always say, I can't read. I didn't go to school. We always knew about it. I always wondered how she managed in everyday situations. It must have been terrible. How could she cope without being able to read or write? Okay, I think people in that situation use certain tricks to get by on. They make a mental note of certain landmarks and so on. I don't really know. Once we went out for a meal, and she was given a menu. The waiter didn't know. He gave her the menu. She looked at it, looked right and left, but couldn't read it. Then my sister said, "Mom, you can't read the menu. Just say what you like to eat and I'll order." She had tears in her eyes, and she said, "I always wanted to be able to read and write. I wanted to go to school, but your grandfather would not let me." I felt so sorry for her. I said, "We have to find a way to change that." So we flew home to Hamburg, and I searched the internet for a school. Finally, I came across adult evening classes in Munich for people that wanted to learn to read and write. They took place every 3 months, so I registered my mother. She said, "No, I'm 65 years old, and I'm such a pea-brain. I won't be able to manage it."
I mean, this is unbelievable. She's 65 years old and she starts to learn to read and write. How long did it take? How quickly did she learn?
It went fairly quickly. 1 or 2 years. It didn't take long. She always studied hard at home, and every time I called on the phone, my father would say, "Why should she learn to read and write? She's 65. That made me really mad. I said, "Father, it isn't a question of age. She wants to learn." Just imagine, if she dies in 10 to 20 years, I don't want to have a guilty conscience. Whether or not she needs it is a different matter. My mother is a very intelligent woman. She learned it in a year, not fluent, of course, but she understood what she was reading. And then my father became really jealous of her. And that was the best part of it.
But the interesting thing is, so she's 65 years old and she learns to read and write. How did it change her life?
She said, "Oh, this is great." Finally, she could go to the airport and read the signs. She could go to the gate and see that the plane had a 30-minute delay. Before that, she had no idea and would stand and wait, even for up to 2 hours. She said it really changed the quality of her life. And it certainly did. Now she's talking about getting a driver's license.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful, yeah? So Ali was getting there really involved with his mother, helping his mother really quite a late age to learn to read and write with great success. He's also been involved with an initiative in the town where he lives, where he's got his restaurant these days in Hamburg. We've got photos of this initiative. It's called the Elending Foundation. Let's have a look at the photos and Ali can tell us what we're seeing here.
It's a voluntary foundation with patrons for children or families who are socially disadvantaged. I can see a reflection of myself in it, because I used to wish I could have a patron like that, someone to support me. You have parents who don't speak good German. Your mother can't read or write. The children here can learn a lot from their patrons. The Elending Foundation has its own organic farm, where we also slaughter animals. So we can explain why we have to do that. We can show them how to grow vegetables or bake bread. The whole process, from the grain to the bread. I really enjoy being part of it, and I enjoy teaching things to the children. I grew up in a similar situation, and that's why I'm a patron for the foundation. I really enjoy it.
mitzumachen.
Great stuff. And this all happens in Hamburg. I'd like to ask you, is Hamburg a rich city or is Hamburg a poor city?
Hamburg ist sehr reich.
Hamburg is a very wealthy city, a beautiful city. I come from Munich. It's a beautiful city too. But the people there are very superficial. In Hamburg, it's all about understatement. The people there are more down to earth. Hamburg is a very nice place, but it's also a rich city, of course.
Okay. He says rich. I know there are quarters, however, of Hamburg, the kind of quarters that he's been involved in, where there are not only rich folks in Hamburg. And while we're talking about money, while we're talking about Hamburg, it's important to mention that Hamburg is getting a spectacular new landmark. It's called the Elbphilharmonie, and it's a breathtaking new concert hall, or a complex of concert halls, built right on top of an historic warehouse. The project, though, has been a catalogue of delays and spiralling costs. And although it's far from complete, there has, however, been a concert staged at the complex right in the middle of the building site.
Last September saw an unusual event, Brahms' Requiem in a concert hall that's still under construction. Originally scheduled for completion last year, it's no longer clear when Hamburg's Elbphilharmonie will open. The choir and the audience united in a location that one day will be open to everyone, 37 meters over the Elbe River. Above them, the actual concert hall is still just a collection of iron girders. But the computer model shows what Hamburg hopes will one day be one of the world's best concert venues. It's a beautiful performance, even if the concert building still has a gaping hole in the center. CHRISTOPH LIEBEN-SEUTTER is probably the world's only musical director of a construction site. He remains optimistic.
I often show the construction site to major artists, wonderful directors and stars, and orchestral representatives. They're always wowed, and they tell me to see it through and that they'll come as soon as it's ready.
But tonight it's the music that matters. Conductor Simon Halsey is presiding. 30 years ago he worked in Sydney, now a fabled concert hall that was plagued by delays and spiraling costs during construction.
And Ali Güngörmüs, you have been on the building site of this new landmark in your city, Hamburg. What was it like?
It'll be a fantastic building if it's ever finished.
Building, also wie sagt man das auf Deutsch jetzt auf einmal?
A building.
Gebäude, ein super Gebäude. Nein, das wird, ich glaube, das.
I think the Elbphilharmonie will be Hamburg's new landmark, and the architecture is fantastic. I'm interested in architecture because we have a very well-known architect's office above our restaurant. So yes, I think it'll be Hamburg's new landmark, but somehow it never gets completed. We seem to have so many building sites here in Germany at the moment. The airport here in Berlin and the concert hall in Hamburg. I was inside the building, and it's great. They want Hamburg's new landmark to be very special, but that takes time. And where such projects are concerned, the costs always explode.
I mean, you're a businessman, a businessman in Hamburg, it's your city. How worried are you about the spiraling costs?
I think we'll have to swallow the bitter pill, worry about the costs as taxpayers. But even if it costs 2 billion euros, once it's all completed, all the problems will be forgotten. That's the way it always is. If I had a restaurant near the Elbphilharmonie, I'd offer a special construction site midday menu, because I'd be right next to the building site. But it'll be Hamburg's new landmark, and it's a great building.
Das wird Hamburgs Wahrzeichen, es ist auch eine tolle Architektur.
The Swiss architects who designed it are very good, and I'm looking forward to its completion. It'll be good for the city.
I'm sure. I think it's fantastic. It's really spectacular. Last question for you. Yeah, you've got about sort of half a minute to tell me what is your favourite three-course meal of all time. Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Go on, starter. Yeah.
Okay, starter.
To start with, lobster with curry and coriander. For the main course, I really like noodles served with fish, preferably turbot. And I really enjoy desserts. I have simple tastes, so I'll have ice cream and sorbet.
Okay. Yep. And one more question that I've got for you, because this is an interesting one. I know that, we've talked about your philosophy of life. We've talked about your philosophy of cuisine. You once said something very interesting. You said, I, Ali Güngörmüs, I want to treat all guests equally. Tell me why you said that.
Every guest is important to me. I can't say one person is a good guest and another one isn't. Someone who isn't a good guest today could be one tomorrow. That's why all my guests are important. I want to welcome them all. Younger guests, too, the next generation. I simply enjoy working with them all. I don't just want the elite, not at all. I want normal people, too. And that's what makes for a good mixture, not just one specific group of people.
Great stuff. Yeah, wonderful philosophy of life, philosophy of in the kitchen. Ali Güngörmüs, he's a great career, great chef, great guest, very tasty guest. If you want to find out a little bit more about him, check out my blog on the Talking Germany website. And if you've enjoyed the show as much as I have, then do come back next week. Until then, bye-bye and tschüss.